All right. I'm just dueling my screen here. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see all of you. Thanks for introducing yourselves on the little chat box. It's always nice to see who's joining us for the calls. Yeah, Iman, we haven't had anyone from Egypt in a while. I think it's been 2 months since someone from Egypt joined, so welcome. Hi to all of the fellow South Africans. It's nice to have you in the house as well. And yeah, just basically welcome everyone. I'm going to ask you all to please mute your mics just before we start because it helps with the feedback. I wonder if I can't do that. Yeah, that's perfect. So my name is Nicole and I am... One sec. Perfect. Okay. So my name is Nicole and I am the community manager at Linum Labs. So most of you will be familiar with what we do, but for all of the newcomers, Linum Labs is essentially a software development studio, and we're focused on building solutions in healthcare and identity. And one of the things that we enjoy doing and consider an important part of our work is building communities and providing beginners in the space a platform to learn and grow and connect with folks they wouldn't normally have the opportunity to learn from. Yeah, I'll introduce the speakers in a moment. But just quickly, we have Jonathan and Nepo, who both actually participated in the EthCapeTown hackathon, which I know most of you on the call already know about. So Linum Labs co-organized a global hackathon alongside EthGlobal in April. And yeah, both of them were part of the winning teams. So I'll give them a moment to introduce themselves in a few. But firstly, as you know, this call is recorded. And like every month, we upload this call onto YouTube for our global community to use as a resource once we've all dialed off. And then, yeah, as I've done, please keep your mics on mute. It just helps for the speakers while they are presenting with some feedback, because that's never a good thing. And then, yeah, lastly, remember to ask your questions towards the end of the session by putting it into the chat box, and I will facilitate the Q&A session towards the end. As I mentioned, we are particularly excited to host this month's call because we get to hear from two of the winning EthCapeTown teams. Nepo will be our first speaker. He's got his holding slide all prepared. I love it. He will be presenting the topic or problem statement they tackled over the weekend, focusing on building a decentralized, preference-based voting system on Ethereum. So if you have any questions, feel free to DM me on Zoom. But without further ado, Nepo, the floor is yours. Thanks, guys. So you can unmute yourself. That's perfect.
Thank you, Nika. Hi, everyone. My name is Nhlakanipho Mqadi, but you can just call me Nepo. I'm here today to present to you guys one of the solutions that we worked on at the EthCapeTown hackathon. It was actually our first time with my team working on blockchain as a whole. So we never had any experience prior to that working on blockchain. It was just 3 months ago, the hackathon, I think is maybe. So 3 months ago, it's when we started working on blockchain, and since then we've just been curious and wanting to learn more about this technology. So I'm gonna try and share the solution that we went through, the problem that we're facing, and all my learnings, and hopefully I can also learn from you guys as well. So that's what I do. During the time when we went to the hackathon, it was almost election time here in South Africa. And I'm in Cape Town right now, but originally I'm from Durban. So working in Cape Town, it's a challenge when it comes to elections, because before I came to Cape Town, I registered to vote in Durban, which is, according to our system, you have to vote where you registered. So it was a very difficult time for most of us to think that we're not going to be able to go and vote. And that's how we got the idea that why are we still using a manual process? Why are we still using ballots if we can just go online? So today I'm going to walk you through everything that we thought about, and yeah. So I don't know if you can see my slides.
Yes, we can see.
Okay. So what we built is a decentralized preferred voting system for elections on the Ethereum network. So the problem that we're trying to solve with this is that, when, as I mentioned, you are only eligible to vote where you registered, and which is a big problem if you're someone who's more paranoid or no longer in the place where they register. And also, you have to stand in long queues. Sometimes it will take you a day to just go and vote. Sometimes the weather is very harsh, so people end up not going to vote at all. So, and another thing, before you go and vote, there's a long identity verification process that you have to go through, which is one of the things that is chasing people away from the elections as well. And most importantly, I feel for me, is that the ballots are physical, so that means they can get lost, damaged. In some cases, we've seen situations like that. And also, the voting is done by humans, which is prone to human error. You find that a lot of things can go wrong there, and end up the wrong person is winning the election. So it's a social problem that we thought we can try and solve using blockchain. So just to go through some of the statistics, people who are, the youth is not voting in South Africa. It's only a few people are involved. But in the age of 18 and 19, it's only about 19% who are active in the elections, and the other 81% are not involved, which is a big numbers, given that the youth is the future. And if you can inspire the youth to vote, then it means there's going to be a problem with our democracy in the future. Just more statistics. So first of all, I'm going to start by going through what is blockchain according to my understanding. I'm not going to use the analogy in the book, in the spreadsheet. So for me, blockchain is basically, in simple terms, it's a group of nodes that are connected together, and they're working together to share information, to process the data, and also to allow a secure environment. So, if you are familiar with technical terms, there's something that is called a linked list, where you get nodes and they are linked together, and that chain forms a network. So it's more or less, it's in simple terms, that's how I can say there is blockchain. So the nice thing about blockchain is that since the nodes are connected together, it allows for a secure environment. And the thing is, the data that is in the blockchain is shared across all the nodes that are in the network. So it's not easy for someone to hack the blockchain network, because that is secure. And all the nodes in the network, they verify the transactions that are done. And by that, it means we know exactly who's doing what, and who's changing the information, and who's providing the information, which is a nice thing about the peer-to-peer, and it's also it decentralizes things. So instead of having one central point of processing, then all the nodes or all the computers, devices that are connected in the blockchain, they can work together to do the processing themselves. So what is a DApp then? So a DApp is a decentralized peer-to-peer application. The application is it's a complete opposite of the centralized system. In a DApp, in Ethereum, allows us to build the decentralized application that we can deploy into the blockchain network. So, and you do that by using a language called Solidity. Bravo. Okay, yeah. So we use a language that's called Solidity. Solidity is like JavaScript. So if you're familiar with JavaScript, then it's much easier to work on Solidity. Bravo.
Hey Tabo, sorry. Let me know if you can hear the presentation without unmuting your mic. I'll DM you privately.
Okay.
Thanks, Nicole.
So, yes. So to understanding a DApp, then Yes, a debt is in Ethereum. It's written using a smart contract. A smart contract is just it's just code on the blockchain. It's where you put your business logic. It's where you put all your rules, all the functions. So it's basically where you're gonna hold all your logic and all your rules for your application. And it's written, as I said, in Solidity, which is similar to JavaScript. And but then before I continue, I want to talk about a public ledger. I said there's a blockchain. In blockchain, the nodes are connected together. So each node is holding a public ledger. So we get, for me, a public ledger is like the data layer of the blockchain. So the data, which is the bundles, which is called blocks, they are sitting in every node, and those blocks are chained together. So that means that everyone in the blockchain network has a copy of the data, and the nodes work together to ensure that there's security and also there's anonymity. So this here is just a few of the use cases that you can have in blockchain using Ethereum. So you can use Ethereum to build record-storing applications. You can use for trading activities. You can use it for supply chain related use cases, also for mortgage. You can also use it for real estate markets, employment arrangement, copyright protection. You can use it for healthcare services, government voting, just like in our case, we're doing a voting system for government. And you can also use it for insurance claims and IoT. So basically, there's a lot that you can use blockchain for. And it's exciting to see some of the work that the people are doing on the platform. And so then let's get to the main topic, devote. So why do we choose to do devote on a blockchain network and not use a normal web application? Well, the problem with a normal web application is that it is centralized. So your code, your application code is centralized. It's sitting in a central server. Your database is centralized. So what does it mean? It means that your database, it's easy. If you change information on that database, then it changes for everyone. So it's easy to manipulate the data. It's easy to delete a record. For a voting system, that is not a good way to do it. So that means someone can just access a central point and change your vote, or even delete your vote from the system. And application code is sitting in one place as well. So that means it's easy to change. So if, for example, the rules of the election may change. So this kind of approach is not good for a voting system where you want to ensure that there's fairness and also there's free and fair election. So why then when I will go and vote in a blockchain? Well, since it's decentralized, that means that it's offered, and then there's also that security as well. So vote can be placed across different nodes on the network, enabling high volume without overriding a central server. And also, in order to tamper with the vote, a hacker is to change the hashing information on every node that is connected to the blockchain. So instead of attacking one central point, we have to go to each and every node that's connected, and that is gonna take immense processing power, and really can't say impossible, but it's a difficult task. The blockchain protocol also maintains transparency for that is ideal for an election process, reducing the number of people that are involved in providing the results. In a blockchain network, we can have the results instantly. So rather than have to wait for 3 days while they're doing the count, the results can be available immediately, which is providing an enhanced customer experience as well. So this is just a summary of the benefits of voting on a blockchain. The diagram here represents exactly how the architecture will look like. So you have the nodes that are chained together using that, where we have the public ledger, which is the data, is sitting across all the nodes. The smart contract, which is holding all your rules for the elections. And the rules will be that your vote is going to count. It's only going to count once, and the right candidate is going to win. So those kind of logic would be sitting in your smart contract. And then you can have a front-end application to assess the voting. So a front-end, you can build it using Angular, HTML, or any front-end languages, but the back end of it will be the blockchain. And the front-end, you can easily access it from a browser or an app on your phone. So you still get that nice user experience as well. So someone who's doing the election, who's voting, can even tell that there's a blockchain running in the background. So blockchain offers anonymity, it offers fairness, efficient, and it's also attractive to the youth because it's less technology, it's something people can relate to. So what do you want to achieve with the vote? We want to solve the issue of transparency we face in our current voting system. We also want to increase customer experience by providing a voting tab that produces accurate results in real time. So instead of having to wait days to get your election results, as soon as you vote, you get to see the real-time feedback of who's leading and who's winning. It gives us mobility to enable voters to vote from anywhere in the world. So even Nicole in Switzerland can be able to cast a vote without even having to come back to South Africa. It provides a safe and secure voting environment where you can be verified and given an identity in the security of the network not be tampered with. So there's one of the major things in blockchain, which is identity. Is still something that has been tackled to ensure how do we manage identity. So I thought I could throw in this slide, which is dependencies and so, because from my experience at the hackathon, one of the biggest challenges that we faced is how do you get started? Now there's a lot of resources available online that try to explain to you what blockchain is, but it's not easy to work with the tools, and sometimes it's not even easy to find those tools. So I've put together basic tools that we will need to get started. It's Node.js. You will need Truffle, and Truffle provides you a development environment for Ethereum. It provides you the tool to create and test your smart contracts and also to deploy them. And you also get Ganache. Ganache provides you a personal blockchain where you can test your smart contracts or you can deploy it to. So it's like a personalized blockchain. Then you have MetaMask, which allows you to connect to the blockchain. So I've also put it together. Let me show you this. So yeah, it's where you can actually get these tools. The Node.js tool, you can get it directly from. So you can get it from the Node.js website, and also the Truffle and Ganache, you get them in the same site. So you just go to truffle.swiss.com, then that's where you can see all the tools that can help you get started when working on blockchain. And you also get to see some docs and some examples and also tutorials to help you maybe try and develop something. And finally, the MetaMask one, you just go to metamask.io. So it's, as they say, brings Ethereum to your browser. So it's a Chrome extension, but it's also available for Firefox. And here, okay, let me just, this is where you can read more about Devote and also get to go to access the GitHub repo as well to see the code of the application that we did develop. And also you can get more technical details on how we went about developing this application. So it's devpost.com, then software-devoting. Yes, so yes, this is just a link to that website that I showed you to learn more about Devote. And yeah, you can get in touch with me on LinkedIn. You can just search Nhlakanipho Mqadi, or you can follow me on Twitter and just tag Mqadi. It's not that difficult. Or you can visit my own website, which is mqadi.website.net. Then you can access everything, my GitHub. You can access my social networks. So it's much better to just go to the website directly. And yeah, so we are still in the phases of developing Devote to make it a viable application. We're still trying to get together our tools that we need, because there's a lot of pieces that are involved to make sure that this can work. We're still trying to engage with the right stakeholders as well, so to make sure that we have the support that we need to proceed with this. So for us, it's mainly about giving back to the society while we also gain the skills to work on blockchain. And it's been 3 months, but it feels like it's been a year. Yeah, so it's quite exciting environment, and I think that if you give it a chance, you can start with it. And one of the main things that I learned from the hackathon is that you don't have to throw away everything that you know to get started on blockchain, because that's what we did actually. We forgot everything we knew, because I'm a software developer as well, but usually working on Java and .NET. So we thought, now you don't need Java, you don't need .NET, let's just forget about it. We're learning Solidity now, we're working on blockchain, we're learning Ethereum. And you find that blockchain is actually going to complement the skills that you already have and the knowledge that you already have. So it's about how do you incorporate blockchain into what you already know. Because alone, blockchain cannot do anything. But if you put all the pieces together, if the technology works together, then we can create something amazing with it. So yeah, that was my experience, and thank you guys.
Thanks, Nipple. I want to start off by saying that I am personally so inspired. As Nipple mentions, he always emphasizes the fact that he didn't spend too much time working on or fussing about with blockchain in general, but then learning about his work thus far. And it's only been 3 or 4 months now. It's really inspiring. And then obviously, as we know, voting plays an important role in exercising our freedom. But that doesn't necessarily mean that having the right to vote means that it's always accessible. So inspired by your work towards decentralizing a fundamental right. Thanks, Nico. Your presentation was brilliant.
Thank you, Nico.
So guys, if you have any questions for Nipo, I know that I have one question which we'll get to towards the end. Thanks, Nipo. Up next, we have John.
Let me mute my screen.
Hey, how's it going? Can everyone hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. We just need Nipo to unshare his screen.
Thank you. Okay.
Hey, guys. Are you in India?
Hey. Can you see us?
Yes.
Do we have to manually share our screen now?
Yes, we do.
This. Click share. Okay, cool. Share that one.
Yeah, so just a quick introduction. So while John is sharing his screen, these guys came in first place, and besides being just brilliant across the board, they came up with a really quirky and interesting solution to link NFTs on Ethereum to I think it's African black rhinos. Are you guys all set?
Ooh, yeah, ready. Can you see our screen now?
We see it.
Perfect.
You can jump right in.
Yeah, so first off, it's myself, Denim, and Jason here. And we're actually in India at the moment. We participating in the ETH India hackathon this weekend. So it's super exciting. We had a lot of fun at EthCapeTown, and we thought, why not just do it all over again? It was a really great experience. So here we are, and here we are presenting to you guys. What a pleasure. So our project we've kept working on after the hackathon, and it's really been an awesome time getting to work on this project together afterwards. Generally, it's revolved around Thursday evenings where we sit down, have some wine, have some dinner, do a bunch of coding, and keep looking at how we can actually make this project come into fruition. And what we wanted to do was really think of how can we push this to the next level. And what came to mind was spending more of our time on this and getting in the right ecosystem to really push it forward. So I'll tell you how we got to that, but quickly to just give those listeners who haven't had an idea of what Wildcards is yet, it was an always for sale model based on harbinger tax. And essentially what that means is you just have your non-fungible tokens like, CryptoKitty or anything else. And essentially we were selling these tokens. So we would be selling something like a gorilla. And when someone buys that gorilla, they set a price for that gorilla. And whatever price they set, they have to pay a tax on that price. Now might be a little bit complicated. So don't think about it too much for now, but that's our basic idea. And we'll tell you why we think it's interesting as we go through. But back to the whole idea of, us trying to look at the big vision. And the big vision was, can we get into some kind of incubator or space where we can sit together and work on this on a more permanent basis? So we actually applied to a bunch of incubators to think about, how we could accelerate this. There's a few we're still waiting to hear back from, but there was one blockchain incubator in Paris we applied for, the Ubisoft blockchain incubator, and that's what this presentation is actually modeled around. How can we have synergies with a company like Ubisoft, which are a massive games company, as some of you may know. And we got pretty good news a week or so ago that we got accepted into the Paris incubator, which is pretty cool, which is in Paris. So we'll also be spending a bit of time there doing a bit of work on this project. So we would really love to hear your feedback afterwards. Please give us lots of questions. We'll give you our website. You can follow us on socials, and it would really be great to hear everything you wanted to say. So awesome. So let's go ahead and look a bit more at it. So this just talks a bit about, us being bought out of the EthCapeTown 2019 presentation. We had a really awesome time. Those of you who were there knew the vibe was absolutely brilliant. The speakers were brilliant. It was really a top-notch time, and it was a great time for us developer friends to actually reconnect with each other. We hadn't actually spoken to each other in a while, me and all these cool guys here, and we got the ball rolling again, and we picked up right where we left off. We actually all studied together a couple of years ago, so it was really awesome to get the ball rolling. And you'll be able to see our original demo and presentation. Dan?
Yeah, so we have the original video on our website. If you follow our leave us on background.
Yeah.
But if we go into kind of our current platform.
Yeah. Yeah, so here's our current platform, and essentially this will be our website. So feel free to visit it. And we actually deployed, we're live on the mainnet. We're already raising money right as we speak. And it would be great to have people participating. So this is, again, just an overview of our platform, and it's wildcards.world if you want to visit it. It's as simple as that. And we'll also tell you a bit more about the different platforms we can do. Yes. Yeah?
And be sure to scroll down to the bottom where you can subscribe to keep up to date with what we're up to, and just keep in contact with our newsletter.
Amazing.
Also, don't be shy to follow us on social media. We have been shy ourselves, but we plan to really push updates as they come. So please follow us.
And if I can ask for a huge favor, at our kind of formative stages, we'd really appreciate any feedback you can give us. And even if that's bad feedback, in fact, I would almost request bad feedback, because that we need to make sure we like hearing at our current stage.
100%. And where you can probably give us the feedback the easiest is probably on Telegram. Otherwise, you can interact with us through our website. We have a chat bar, but probably our Telegram, which is Wildcards, will probably be easiest.
Yeah, we'll share our link in our Telegram.
Yeah, you'll get all our links, so stay tuned. Okay, so back to our platform. This is our current platform. This is our website. So our initial idea was, and I remember this is how we sort of pitched it to Ubisoft, because there's a lot of interesting use cases you can do with always for sale type of things. So our problem was, contributions are made once off and forgotten about. And an interesting person we talked to was Arnold Weinstein. We actually talked to him. He was from New York. And he said he pioneered the whole Hanu crypto kitty, which was selling this turtle crypto kitty over here. And they sold it for about, $25,000, but it was a once-off event. And it was, a single donation. We thought, how can we make this process continuous as opposed to once-off, to consistently, help generate funds and whatever it may be. And our solution was combining the incentives of profits, patronage, and collectibles to create consistent revenue streams. Now, it's a bit of a mouthful, but essentially we were looking for customer retention as opposed to customer acquisition. So we wanted people to continually be involved and donate instead of just, once off buying the kitty or once off donating. We want to engage people, and we want them to constantly participate in the ecosystem we're involved in. And that's what all the big companies like Netflix and everyone who is successful has done, right? Uber, Netflix, they all have customers who are consistently engaging with it. So we'll get onto that now, and you'll see that Ubisoft, we very interestingly picked up a month ago, have also got into this whole idea of going to a game subscription service where you pay a certain amount a month and you get access to all of their games. And we thought, great, let's see how far we can take this model. And Harbinger Tax really allows people to do this. And how it allows people to do this, we'll get into now. So back into our platform, essentially what it means is is any asset you hold. So think of an asset as your non-fungible token. Whenever you hold a non-fungible token, there's two things you have to do. Number one, you have to set the selling price of this non-fungible token. And that by default means if I hold this non-fungible token and I set its selling price at $10, someone can come along at any point and buy it for $10, i.e. it's always for sale, which makes an extremely liquid market. So that's the one element of holding this asset. Number two is whatever you set the selling price at. So if I set it at $10, you have to pay a tax based on the selling price. So if I set it at $10 and the tax is, say, 100% a year, then I'll have to pay $10 a year for holding this asset. So essentially what you're doing is you're subscribing by paying this tax to actually hold the single asset of yours. And what this does is it creates consistent tax revenue for any of these assets. So now we were actually looking at, hey, we can actually integrate this into games for Ubisoft. Hey, why don't we take the in-game marketplace for certain games? Brawlhalla was the one we used. So here's a quick recap of how it works. Harbinger tax, as we said, harbinger tax is just the tax you pay on the selling price. Always for sale means since you have to set the selling price when you buy it, someone can always buy it, i.e. it's always for sale at that selling price. And non-fungible token, you'll probably be aware of already. And if you want to do some background reading on this great book, it's Radical Markets, and it talks about this common ownership self-assessed tax, which is really an interesting concept that, you know, the harbinger tax and everything is sort of hinged on. So do yourself a favor, sink into those heavy economics. So Brawlhalla was the game that's owned by Ubisoft. We actually pitched it to them and we said, you know, imagine every single little character within this game was actually a certain NFT that was always for sale. And I mean, it's insane the things that this allows you to do. It means an esports player can pay with a specific character, and other people can get this character from that esports player at a later stage, which is really exciting amongst a number of other things.
And so that introduces actually a speculative value to games, which actually normally only happens long after the game has become retro. And it's quite interesting that now we're going to have assets that might appreciate in value within a year of the game being released. If the game starts out as an indie game and becomes successful. So it's really exciting, and it can accelerate development of games.
And these in-game assets aren't strictly characters. So for example, it can be armor or swords or anything that you can expect to buy as an in-game asset.
Yeah, so that's really great. And again, what we were going away from is the one-off purchases in store. When you buy a character once-off, you know, a game makes that customer acquisition, but does it retain the customer? Does it consistently generate revenue off it? Maybe not. So if you buy a movie once, you buy it once, that's a once-off event. Netflix, you subscribe, you get customer retention. Now we can do that with the assets inside a game and take it a level deeper, which we thought was really interesting. So some of the benefits, which we've already pretty much mentioned, are, you know, you can give unique character stats, you can incentivize profit, which Jason talked about, and it's really just what we think is a pretty much awesome model. So to talk a bit about our timeline, you know, we created the basic idea at the EthCapeTown hackathon, which was awesome. We've now developed our first wildcard and we've launched it on the mainnet just for some user testing. It's currently been bought a few times and its current selling price is 20 ETH. So please go along and buy it. So someone is currently paying tax on that 20 ETH, which is really awesome that people are supporting our project. And, you know, our next idea is just continuing this basic proof of concept. Initially, it was, you know, to get into this incubator so we could get there. And yeah, so far we're going to expand it out. You know, everything in the startup world is about scaling. How do you actually make this thing bigger than just one concept? And that's what we believe harbinger tax can be. So we're looking into a bunch of different avenues of how it can make a lot of sense. This was just our team and why we thought we were pretty cool. Simon's been helping us a lot with the base layer, which was awesome. He was actually a judge at the hackathon, so we're stoked to have him helping us. this is why we thought we were pretty cool and slick. We thought we were scalable. We've got stuff done. We think we can do a great integration with Ubisoft. Our team is passionate, and we think we can create an impact economy for things like games. So we'll just,
quickly, there's something that we haven't mentioned. So just to go back a step, everything is controlled by smart contracts. So this isn't actually possible in traditional financial systems without a blockchain. So this is exciting. We're doing something that is uniquely enabled by a blockchain. So that's the first thing to note. Then we've got a question about defaulting on the tax. So because it's a smart contract, we can set rules of what happens when certain conditions are met or aren't met. And one of the conditions in the smart contract is that if the deposit is 0 or negative, anyone can acquire that token from the owner. So the owner actually loses the token. So the owner really, if they want to keep the asset, they will want to keep the depositor.
Correct. So the value of the asset, or the sale price of the asset, will become 0, which will allow anyone to take ownership over the asset. And the original owner will lose patronage. So this is kind of an incentive to keep paying that deposit or
the next
tax.
I just want to add something quickly to that. When you purchase the token, you have to set a new price. That's one thing you need to do. But the other thing you need to do is put in a deposit. And that deposit sort of counts as your tax for the next X amount of weeks or months or whatever. And even though tax is calculated on a per annum or per month basis, is reduced, it's taken off continuously. So the deposit only lasts, well, you can only own the token for as long as your deposit lasts. As soon as the deposit is finished, then the token is taken away from you.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, Sean's part of our team. Just for you don't know, he's joining us in India later on in this week.
Yeah, and to add on to that, with your deposit, you can add to the deposit and you can take your money out of the deposit as well if you like.
The next question, I don't think this is a long one to answer, and it's quite fundamental. So velocity in a financial system is how fast the assets move hands. And actually, wildcards incentivizes a higher velocity because of the tax. If people aren't using the asset anymore and they don't feel value from holding that asset, they are very likely to lower the price and sell it. Also, the prices will theoretically never get too high because of the tax. So I hope that answers your questions, Roshan.
Because the asset is always for sale, it's highly, highly liquid. And the kind of aspect is you're incentivized by the tax not to raise the price too high. Otherwise, you'll be paying a higher tax because you pay that tax on the selling price. So if you keep the tax at a kind of a self-assessed value, then your price will be at a given point. And because it's always for sale, it means it's highly liquid. Whoever believes that it's got a higher value will purchase it at that higher price and then reset their selling price. Which, if they'd like to, they can set the selling price for lower than what they purchased it for. But what will generally happen is someone else will purchase it for a higher price because they've seen it's sold for that price, and i.e. the value is at a given point is higher.
And another thing which I think is quite interesting, we're all having fun here, is for our original use case. So going back to patronage and donations, they're two sort of psychological things that we're playing on with this idea. One is speculation. So an early adopter of wildcards or an influencer, for example, could buy a wildcard very cheap, set the price very high, and then go on social media and pump the wildcard and make a profit off that. And as far as we see it, that's actually positive. It's a win-win for everyone because regardless, there's tax going towards the conservation organization. And more than that, people want to have people think they're great. And how can you make people think you're great? You can make people think you're great by giving to charity, by making people think that you're really a lovely person who cares about the world. And what better way is there to show people that you care about the world than having a digital gorilla which is linked and connected to all your social media, for example? So I just thought I'd point that out because it's really interesting. We're playing with new psychological mechanisms to make things sustainable and to really protect things that are important to humanity as a whole.
Can I unmute myself and ask you like questions directly, or do I have to type them in?
Go for it, please. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if I agree with you about people. I mean, I think somebody said, like, the more I come to know about people, the more I tend to like my dog. So I'm interested in like something called agent-based modeling, and I'd be so what I'd be interested in is like, how do you keep the incentives up so that agents keep behaving the way you want them to behave, which is a very general question.
The incentive is by the gorilla.
Well, there's three incentives. There's patron, which is showing your support for something. That's number one. There's profit, the fact that when you buy it and you set a higher selling price, you could profit off your patronage. And number three, it's the fact that you have a collectible. So there's three overarching main, I would say, incentives in it. But agent-based modeling is super topical for those of you who don't understand. It's like a whole bunch of different agents. Imagine an ant colony, each acting in their own interest. How does the aggregation of all those individuals act as a whole on the system? That's how I would explain.
Pretty much.
So that's what we need to figure out as well, right? Right now, we don't have a massive number of agents. So this is a problem we want to solve, and we want to find out at least let's find out if we're going to get adverse behavior.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, like, the question about convergence, because you don't want to set parameters that like end up halting your system.
100%.
I mean, the other question that I had is more like, so if you're selling, for example, options on a regular exchange, you have pricing models for those options. So how would is there like a pricing model for you to work out the price of a wild card that you happen to be holding? I mean, I know that the context is very much like playful and environmentally conscious, but if you can build assets that behave like this in this context, you can build them in any other context. And the important thing there, say, would be, if you're going to say build something that tracks a real life thing, say a coffee plantation or something like that, you'd want to be able to value it. I mean,
so that's a good question. From what I kind of understand, what you're asking is the underlying intrinsic value of the asset. So why not apply this to anything, and then you kind of argue, well, it's worth something because it's a digital asset essentially. So how we are kind of giving this digital asset an intrinsic value. So one, the value is in the incentives, the three incentives. The profit incentive sounds a bit of a Ponzi scheme when you put it just as a value and basing it on sentiment and price going up. The second is the value of the patronage, which you as an individual are giving to a wildlife conservation fund. And then how we are kind of facilitating that kind of concept is we are looking to partner with a company called EthCapeTown, which they're like a kind of a live streaming of real world animals. So we're in the process of chatting to them, and we were just waiting on them to send us a list of kind of rare individual animals that appear in their cameras. And so we're going to take a one-to-one mapping of these digital assets, and you won't own value on that actual tusker elephant, but you'll own patronage on that individual animal. So it's adding this intrinsic value to the asset by representing it in a real-world asset.
Okay.
That's some of it.
Do you have any follow-up questions?
Not at the moment. Sorry. I feel like I've hijacked this discussion into.
No, it's cool.
This is great.
Economics.
Yeah, it's good for us to kind of flesh these ideas out.
I wanted to fill in a word. The word I was looking for is virtue signaling. So people will want to own the gorilla as a signal of their virtue signaling. Going back to creating a real value for the asset, that's probably one of our hardest challenges, and we'll admit that. We believe that people are going to value digital things more and more as time goes on. You can see trends where people do value game assets. They value sentiment, which is digital, sentimental value, which is digital. And people also value experience. And if owning a digital asset allows you to unlock a certain experience in the digital world, then that asset has value. So if you have a game where at any one time only 100 people can play it, and that game is somehow linked to a blockchain, so the economy of the game is linked to a blockchain, the assets are linked to a blockchain, whatever it is, the future we see is people will want those assets to play that game. And for example, a game developer, you could leverage that to your advantage if you're clever. We're thinking a lot about how do we make something that's digital and therefore not valuable, and turning it into something valuable for humans. And that's the interesting thing about value. It's all in the eye of the beholder. I mean, even gold, it's just shiny metal. I don't see many animals valuing gold, yet humans, for some reason, think gold is fabulous. I think that's something that is quite hard to grasp, because we've been brought up believing certain things are valuable and certain things aren't valuable. But I think the digital age, that'll change.
And if I can take an in-game asset of a character. So for example, you're playing Brawlhalla, which is a fighting game, and you own this digital crypto gorilla, and that's your in-game asset. As you play with this game, obviously the gorilla levels up and it becomes stronger in strength or any of its kind of key kind of value or points. And so intrinsically, this gorilla will have a higher value in the game. And if you put that into a model of kind of online gaming competitions, and you have a unique, distinct gorilla that is not replicated, it's not copied, it's not the same character for every other player, you've got this kind of rare, intrinsically valued in-game asset. And so by leveraging off game or in-game assets, we can still map that kind of gorilla or token, non-fungible token, as a social benefit towards conservation.
What's also interesting is I don't believe there's one system to rule them all. I mean, just because now there's a Harbinger tax system doesn't mean all CryptoKitties and all other NFTs on Ethereum or other blockchains will be converted to the system. It's really about experimenting and exploring where these mechanisms fit. I can see someone who is rich in CryptoKitties, for example. They have a lot of CryptoKitties, saying, how do I make profits off these CryptoKitties? They could wrap their CryptoKitties into something that's always for sale and allow other people to use their CryptoKitties. For example, I'm just trying to give an example, but you can really see it being a tool. It's like another mechanism that you can try, and it'll work in some use cases and not in others.
Here's our socials. Just take your phone out, scan this barcode. You can sign up for our newsletter. You'll see our Telegram links and our other links in the chat. Please go for it. We'd love feedback. We'd love for you to be involved. And we really think with your guys' help, we can help push this project forward.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I'll share the presentation with the guys or the people on the call. if you would like, if it's a public presentation, I'll be happy to circulate that for you. But just for timekeeping, I'd like to, firstly, thanks John and team for the presentation. Yeah, I always love it when there's a little bit of back and forth and questions in between. Yeah, it was really insightful, and also just to kind of track your progress. Thanks for sharing it with us. Is Kose on the call with us? Is he still on the call?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, cool. So, Nipo, I've sent you the question already, but I'll just read it out. So, Kose was asking, how will Devote ensure that government won't interfere in the voting system? So, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to answer the question.
Okay. Thanks for that question. It's a good question. In blockchain, the nice thing about it is that, the nice thing about it is that one node cannot interfere with all the other nodes, because every action that is taken by one node needs to be verified by all the nodes in the network that it's legitimate. So if you try to do something that's malicious, it's not gonna get past just that node that is malicious, because the other nodes that are having the same copy of the code, of the application code, and all the rules, they need to verify that this transaction that is taking place is coming from the right node, because what we have what we call public key and the private keys to identify the nodes. So the public key is available to all the nodes in the blockchain network. So it's transparent, it's visible. So all the nodes, they can see where is this transaction coming from, and if it's not a legitimate transaction, then it can be blocked out. So you can't really tamper with anything on the network in that way. So that visibility, that transparency allows you not to have those kind of malicious nodes that can be placed into the network. So I don't know if that gives you an idea.
Kose, you're still on the call?
Still there, Kose?
Oh, I think he's hopped off. But if anybody else anyone have a question for Nipo? Thanks for the answer, Nipo. Okay, well.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon.
Hi.
Yes. Yeah, I'm Christian. Thank you for accepting me for the meeting. I came late. Sorry. Then I have a question for. I don't know how to pronounce your name.
Is it John or Nhlakanipho?
I don't. You
Me?
exactly. Yes. How do you pronounce your name?
Me?
Okay, I'm Christian. I'm calling from Ghana.
Oh, hi, Christian.
Yes. Hi. How are you guys? Just to tell you thank you for what you have done, you to the Johnson and you as well, because you have made an incredible presentation. I really like it. And my question is about the voting system you have built. I mean, the previous question they asked was about how the government will interact with the system. I mean, I think maybe the person wanted to know how much. What's the place of the government on that specific system? Who will be monitoring the system? I mean, to make your system very accurate, we need to know where is the government will stand. That's where we need to know that the accuracy of your system is very fine. You understand the point?
Yeah, I think I do understand. Also, you want to know whether the system will be belonging to the government, and if the system will be with the government.
Exactly. Because if we are talking about the transparency, so we need to know. Though we have the blockchain, which is giving us the assurance that the system is properly designed.
Yes. So the nice thing about blockchain is that it's not centralized. So it doesn't belong to one central entity. So it's not going to be sitting with, say, for example, the government servers or the government. So it's decentralized, and it's a connection of nodes. So everyone that is in the network is connected together to form this blockchain network, right? So that is gonna be everyone, the citizens, all of it is as the citizens that are connected into this network. The code is sitting with everyone, with every node in the blockchain network, and also the data is sitting with all the nodes. So it's not stored in a central point. You can't really say this is where we're keeping the application. So this network is all the devices that are within this network. They are the ones that are forming this blockchain network. So that is going to be formed by everyone. So all the citizens connected together to form a national blockchain network that is going to allow everyone to cast their vote, and also for these votes to be verified by everyone else. So you yourself, you're also part of the network. So the code is also sitting with you, and the rules, but you can't change the code. There's another benefit of it. So even though the code is shared among all the nodes, but you as yourself cannot change that application, the code for the application.
I have to interject, but I'd love to connect the two of you to each other if you'd like to take the conversation further. We've come to the end of our call, so I just really quickly want to thank everybody for joining. A big shout out to both of our speakers. Thanks, Nipo, John, and team for joining us this month. Yeah, I will circulate your presentations if you're comfortable with me to do that. And then also, I've got a note of who to connect with who. Yeah, if you have any more questions, you guys know to DM me on my Twitter account. You've been really diligent in doing that. It's just at Nick Mountain. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining the call. I hope to see you next month. I'll post some messages when our next call will take place. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Nicole. Bye, guys.